Hello, welcome to Ticket to Qatar. I'm Tracy Holmes, coming to you from Doha this week. As we know, 12 years of preparation and the FIFA World Cup is almost upon us. This week, we'll take a look at the royal family that holds the power here in Qatar. We'll also speak to Socceroo Bailey Wright on the eve of the match between France, the opening game for the Socceroos, and we'll get Sam Lewis's take on all things World Cup related. First though, let's take a look at the news around the FIFA World Cup. All 32 nations have arrived in Qatar, but it's the home nation, Ghana, and the Socceroos that occupy the primest of prime real estate for their home base here at the elite Aspire Academy. Thanks to Socceroos legend Tim Cahill, who is the Academy's CEO. The Western world's media came looking for drama, and it didn't take long. The security-conscious Qataris still adjusting to the FIFA World Cup media freedoms of filming in public without the need of a specialist permit.
But you can break the camera. You want to break the camera? Okay, you break the camera. Okay. Yes. So you're threatening us by smashing the camera.
Qatari officials have apologised to the crew for the mistake. Nobody was arrested, and the camera was not smashed. France's captain, Hugo Lloris, may be lifting the World Cup in 4 weeks' time, but a portion of the media just wants to know one thing. Will he wear a rainbow armband to highlight the rights of the LGBTQ+ community?
When we're in France, when we welcome foreigners, we often want them to follow our rules, to respect our culture. And I will do the same when I go to Qatar, quite simply.
Four-time Cup winners Italy have not sent their football team here, but the Italian fingerprints are all over this World Cup. From FIFA President Gianni Infantino calling for an Olympic-like truce during the Cup.
So my plea to all of you is to think on a temporary ceasefire for 1 month for the duration of the World Cup, or at least the implementation of some humanitarian corridors or anything that could lead to the resumption of dialogue as a first step.
To the Italian ambassador in Qatar, Paola Toschi, launching a made-in-Italy fashion and design exhibition. The Italians also have 560 uniformed officers here as part of an international security force. Plus, they helped build the state-of-the-art metro and the Al Bayt Stadium.
Like most royal and imperial families, the House of Thani dominates every aspect of public life. Just look at the delegation for Qatar's FIFA World Cup bid and you'll know what I mean. It included the Emir of Qatar at the time, his wife, the then Prime Minister, the chairman of the Qatar 2022 bid committee, and the president of the Qatar Football Association. Or as one FIFA president once said,
"It's all the same family."
And it's been the same family running the Qatar Peninsula for more than 150 years. But it wasn't until 1971 Qatar became an independent state. Before that, Britain had full control over Qatar's foreign policy in return for British protection. You could say Qatar these days still has a strong British connection in the form of prime real estate. The royal family with the state-owned Qatar Investment Authority owns Harrods department store, London's Olympic Village, the Shard, and not to mention this hotel on 145 Piccadilly Street, where Queen Elizabeth's childhood home once stood. And Qatar's global acquisitions and investments are far-reaching. Domestically, its 300,000 citizens benefit from free education, free healthcare, housing grants and free water and electricity. So how did a country that's barely half the size of Australia's largest cattle station become so wealthy? It helps when you have the world's third largest natural gas reserves and the world's 13th largest oil reserves. It also helps when you have expats and migrants, and a lot of them. Qatar's ambitious climb to the heavens came about after this guy kicked out his father in 1995. Qatar has rapidly changed and modernised, but there's also a lot of catching up to do. Human rights groups have long criticised Qatar for its restrictions on civil liberties and its kafala sponsorship system for migrant workers. This system amounted to modern slavery, and many migrant workers have died under their watch. But since 2017, Qatar has been rolling out reforms. It's also changing how it runs the place. Last year, Qatar had its first ever election. This allowed Qataris to choose 2/3 of the Consultative Assembly. The remaining third is appointed by the Emir. But political parties and trade unions are still forbidden, and the three arms of government are still almost entirely controlled by the Emir. So let's go back to the House of Thani because they matter a lot. They know money can't buy everything, especially a place at the global table. You could call it soft power, but the Qataris like to call it smart power. They've acted as a mediator for major conflicts. They've hosted climate talks, and their state-funded news network, Al Jazeera, aims high, competing with CNN and the BBC for global audiences. Qatar also knows the power of personalities. This woman, Sheikha Moza, is probably one of the most influential people in the Middle East. She's the second of 3 current wives to the former emir, the one who deposed his dad. And think about it, she's the second wife, and of all the 11 sons Sheikh Hamad could have chosen from, he chose one of her sons to be the new emir of Qatar. Did I mention she was once listed among Forbes' 100 most powerful women?
I would like to ask a question. When do you think is the right time for the World Cup to come to the Middle East?
Sheikha Moza played an integral part in getting Qatar's pitch to host the 2022 World Cup over the line. She's not the only powerful woman in the House of Thani. This family is widely considered the modern-day equivalent of the Medicis, thanks to this woman, Sheikha Al-Mayasa bint Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. She is Sheikha Moza's daughter and the sister of the current emir and the chair of Qatar Museums.
It's all the same family.
Like he said, under Sheikha Al-Mayasa's leadership, Qatar has become one of the world's biggest art buyers, making Qatar a formidable arts destination as it applies the finishing touches to the World Cup. The House of Thani is on a nation-building drive, and it's using art, sport and diplomacy to redefine itself.
Bailey Wright is one of the most experienced Socceroos in this squad at this World Cup. I caught up with him a little bit earlier to ask him about how he sees his role as a leader in the team.
Yeah, I guess now at 30 years old, I'm probably one of the more senior lads in the group. Certainly been involved with the national team since 2014, so it's been a long stint that I've sort of been in and out of the team and learnt a lot and got a lot of experience to share, amongst, I guess, what we have, here is a young, hungry group of players that are willing to learn. So it's just about, I guess, sharing my experiences if it's needed and making sure as a group that our standards and expectations every day are met and, our culture of the group is maintained. And I think we have a real group of leaders here that, we all complement each other well, and I think that's important that, there's a group of lads that make sure that newcomers in the group feel welcomed and settled, that when you represent your country that you enjoy every bit of it, but you also work really hard and know what the expectations are and the standards of the group.
It's interesting, I've spoken to the coach Graham Arnold about this before, and back in the day when he was playing in the national team, it was just 100% football, where now we recognise that our athletes are also part of the world. They're people first, they have other things, you've got a family, you've got a new child. So how do all of those life experiences play into actually forming the gel of a team?
I guess the life experiences that you learn from becoming a dad, from disappointments in football to the highs in football, playing with different teams, playing with people from different countries, and learning and understanding different personalities helps you understand a group and your teammates better. I think a lot of the time it's about understanding someone's situation and point of view rather than just thinking about it from your own. So a lot of the experiences in life can teach you that if you're willing to reflect on it and learn. Of course, becoming a dad is probably the biggest experience I've ever gone through in my life. Overwhelming feeling that you just care for someone more than anything before, and I guess you can probably help and share that caring nature amongst a group. So there's our team now, we have lads that live all over the world, and everyone's in different circumstances at different stages of their career, and it's important to understand that because there's, like you say, there's the human first and the professional second. So when you come into camp, you can see that there is a connection amongst all the boys that really we really know each other well, and we're there for each other. And we're there, and off the pitch we're lighthearted and we have a good laugh, and then on the pitch we still have a laugh, but we're here to work, and I think we have that balance, and that's really important.
Do you think every team comes into the World Cup with that same sort of blend and experience, or the nations that we're playing in the group stage, do they come in as very different groups?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure on other countries' situations. I don't think there'll be any countries with a tight-knitted group like we've got. We're hard-working Aussies that we never take for granted this opportunity we've got to represent our country, and we're humble, we're level-headed, and I think that shows when you come here. We're just your typical lads who are living the dream that won't take it for granted, and will give everything for that shirt and everything for themselves and their families. And I think that really is our superpower, our cohesion and belief that we have in one another in a group can take us a long way.
And joining me now is ABC Sports' Sam Lewis. Sam, you've arrived in Doha for the first time. What do you make of it? First impressions?
First of all, it's a beautiful city. Everybody that we've interacted with so far has been so deeply polite and respectful and helpful. Doha at the moment feels like it's taking its final breath before the big plunge into this World Cup. Everything is in its final stages of preparation. The streets are covered in World Cup banners and flags. There's stuff everywhere. You know that this is a World Cup city. It's really exciting.
How does what you've seen and felt and experienced in a day and a half, or however long, only hours really, how does that compare with everything you thought based on media coverage heading here?
Yeah, I think a lot of fans are going to experience something similar to me in that I've never been here before. The only thing that I knew about Qatar and about Doha was constructed by media reporting, and a lot of the media reporting has been really negative for justified and for unjustified reasons. And so it's been a challenge to try and separate those perspectives and to see and to experience this city and these people for who and what they are. And I think by doing that, I've come to sort of realise that the truth of this World Cup is somewhere in between. It's tangled up in a lot of different kinds of conversations that perhaps a lot of people haven't quite touched on just yet. And it'll be really interesting to see over the course of the next 4 weeks how Qatar responds to this public pressure. I anticipate them putting on an absolute show because they want this to succeed. They want this World Cup to be as big and as bold and as beautiful as possible, because that's the whole reason that they bid for it, right? So I hope that it's a success. I hope that a lot of the fans who are coming to Qatar experience the same thing as what I have so far in the first 2 days, where it's a really beautiful city, and if you allow it to tell you its story, you learn so much more about it.
Okay, one group of people we know that is very familiar with this city and this country are the Socceroos.
Yes.
Any late mail on them? Just, days, hours out?
Well, the most recent training session last night, there were 2 players who were still a little bit iffy. That is Martin Boyle and Harry Sutar, 2 players who were carrying injuries coming into this tournament. They didn't train with the full squad last night. They were kept to the side doing their own little physio preparations. But other than that, everybody seemed pretty fit, pretty raring to go. They're in their final stages now of preparing for France. It's a team that they've faced before. They know exactly what to expect, and France themselves have a huge slew of injury problems too. So it's only days away now. They've been out training in the heat, in the humidity, trying to acclimatise, and I guess we'll see how we go.
All right, and late mail on any of the other teams, like who do you think are the standouts that we really should keep our eyes on when we're not just watching the Socceroos?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't just say this because they're in our group, but I do actually think Denmark are a really interesting prospect at this tournament. World Cups are interesting because often it's not the team that has the most glamorous, high-profile stars that wins. It's the team that's the best group. It's the best cohesive unit of footballers. And they play a really practical, really pragmatic style. And Denmark, I think, are a really good example of that kind of football team. They have a real togetherness about them, particularly after what happened at the Euros 2 years ago. So they're a team to keep an eye on. But I think outside of that, the tournament favourites are probably Brazil or Argentina, 2 classic football nations with big superstars.
Isn't Brazil always the favourite?
They're always the favourite, of course, but they come into this off the back of winning the Copa America. They come into it as the #1 ranked nation in the world. So Brazil are probably going to be one to watch regardless of how far they go.
All right, Sam Lewis, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy Doha, enjoy the World Cup, and we'll see you next time on Ticket to Qatar.